The Snake and the Mouse. On an old forgotten corner of the city, there stood a little family grocery store. The aisles were narrow, the counters were gritty, but none of the regular customers seemed to mind. For despite its drawback and its blemishes, the place was like a home away from home, and not intended for a gourmet or gastronome. The mouse, sole owner and proprietor, seldom left the premises. He was hardworking, diligent, and kind, and greeted all his customers by name, in his eternally rumpled suit and thin mustache, and gave them credit if they were short of cash. For he, like them, had often been distressed to find himself financially hard-pressed, which makes one more susceptible to pity. The mouse had even acquired a certain local fame, and recently been elected by acclaim head of the Neighborhood Improvement Committee. And it was in this latter capacity he first attracted the notice of the Snake, a high-rolling entrepreneur, famous for his brashness and tenacity, who sauntered in and flashed a slick brochure with his own ideas for improving the neighborhood, and the windfall profits everyone would make, for he had nothing in mind but the common good. These decrepit old buildings were obscenities. Replace them with something new and bright and large, a supermarket with all the amenities. Naturally, in return for his assistance in overcoming ignorant resistance from those who wanted the block kept residential, the mouse would be made manager in charge. This part of the plan was confidential. As news spread of the serpent's proposition, the neighbors joined in concerted opposition. But when the scheme came under his advisement, the mouse, in a grandiloquent report that sounded in fact more like an advertisement, proclaimed his unequivocal support, whereupon confusion reigned, resistance faltered, and to make a long, sad story short, in 6 months' time, the landscape had been altered beyond recognition. But when he arrived at Snake Incorporated, whose offices were like a giant glass cage on the top floor of the newest, tallest tower, expecting to be richly compensated, the mouse was kept waiting by the hour. And the only thing he got was one excuse after another. Things were complicated. They need a resume, a recommendation, credit ratings. Then, flying in a rage as one by one these papers were produced, the Snake began to heap him with abuse because he was to that or else to this. And the mouse realized with a sinking sensation that it was idiotic to persist. For he was, in point of fact, no further use. Experience teaches nothing until it's too late.